freaking beater come off the head. Always let it come off so that you're not muting the drum, okay, and losing bass. You lose bass when you leave a beater into a skin, so just train your foot to let the beater come off, okay? Man, plus you dent the head. Betty butter, butts and butter, but she said this butter's bitter. If I think this bit of butter, it will make my batter bitter, though a bit of better butter, that will make my batter better. So she bought a bit of butter better than a bitter butter, and she baked it in the batter, and the batter wasn't bitter, so it was better. Betty butter bought a bit of better butter. Just try to come up, out, and then back in like that. close is good. Your open tone and your slap, open, muff again. Hey folks, I'm talking today about the right hand being so loud, often with the cymbals I find. You know, we can easily kill the cymbals, and that's cool, and it works for a lot of music and a lot of how you might feel with certain music, but it's also, I think, another side of playing and of groove feel, especially to be able to use your dexterity of your strong limb to bring the volume down to the cymbals, because it's treble and our ears hear those frequencies really well. So you know, if you're really coloring your picture too bright, I think you lose the shadows. You know, you lose the bass, you lose the subtlety between the ghosts. You know, that's kind of a sin, I think, to lose the ghost notes in groove music. You know, because there's just too much overbearing hats happening. So when we start off on drums, a lot of the time you hear the right hand that everyone's got. And then eventually you just, I think, or should look to develop a quieter approach. One thing that really help with that is to, if you're ready, to hold the stick in a different way so you're not just overbearing. I find this really works with the right hand. For example, instead of holding it in the traditional way, you've got the a hilt of the stick. I actually hold it like this quite often now. So the support is coming from the ring finger, and I'm just able to play in this nice and light motion, relaxed back here. I've got a lot of length of the stick now in my favor, and it's just light. The stick is just happy to bounce along like that, you know. So that's a real help for playing more quietly. So again, why are we playing quietly? Because we want to hear that the melody and the dialogue between the kick and the snare, you know, which goes way, way, way back. Those two voices, you know, at least 100 years, more even in Europe, if you're talking about the tradition of bass drums and snare drums. So I really want to honor that the relationship that those guys have as principal voices in a lot of the music that we're familiar with, you know. So the way to do that is, again, to bring the volume down on your cymbals. Test of how to approach that is to actually bring your right hand right out of it. So you can do a check-in on the volume of your ghosts, of your roughs. And when you bring that hat back in, it serves as a through line in the groove music, because we play eighth notes a lot, so it's really easy to just to drive any groove with an eighth note. But again, the feel changes and weakens, in my opinion, a lot of the time when it's too loud. So you should match your ghosts, or it's a great ability to have, to match your ghosts to the same level as your hi-hat dynamically. Hitting the hats here, you can see I'm just moving the wrist just a little bit. but I'm also engaging the both cymbals on the hats. I'm never using just the tip of the stick on the hi-hat because it produces a thin, bright sound which I just can't stand. You know, this will produce the treble, the brightest sound that it can give you. So why add treble to treble? You know, it just makes everything brighter sounding. On the ride, I'll do a mute with the thumb. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll put the tip of my right thumb on the cymbal, and I'll just I'll use the tip of the stick here. Just for a little more control. It's kind of a weird technique, but it involves this pushing down, and the index is on top of the stick as well. It's a really intimate, kind of a cool grip, but this you'll find if you try this out is the weird part, and you have to get used to it, and obviously you have to want this as well, you know. So why would you ever want this? If you're not playing with earplugs and you're in a really quiet setting, then I've found over the years that the tip of the stick on the ride it's only one sound, you know. If you don't want so much wash, but you can't get away from it, and you certainly don't want to go to blast sticks or brushes, you still want to play with the tip with a drumstick, then a thumb mute, it just controls that wash a little bit better. Here's no thumb. So it's a subtle thing, but we're talking about subtleties here today. Strategy again for today is don't hit the cymbals any harder than they really need to. Get the drums to speak instead, you know. So light your colors, light the contrast from the bottom, you know, with the darkness and with the shadows first, and make that the focus, because the brightness is really easy to add in, you know, especially with a cymbal. So it's really worth checking out. Like when you hit a cymbal, it's you know, everyone can waste a cymbal, and it's really important to be able to hit a cymbal really hard for certain kinds of music, and depending on the attitude of the music in the moment. But if it's really quiet, then a cymbal is going to cut anyway. You know, a lot of engineers won't even they won't even use overheads for cymbals, you know, because they know that the mics are going to the mics on the toms are going to pick up the cymbals, and the cymbals are going to just be heard in the room anyway. So you could hit a cymbal like you're giving a kid a high five. You know, you touch the cymbal like, ah, yeah, nice and easy. You don't hit the thing, so you get. So it really doesn't take much to engage a cymbal, and that means, I think, to hear the bottom of the cymbal really speak and emerge and be heard, you know, and open up. Anyway, so that's where I'm at with some groove philosophy for you. in Havana. I was down in Havana and I was shown comparsa, which I put on the kit. Comparsa is very festive, old type of street party music down in Cuba. And okay, we'll get into it later, but I'm going to show you the groove. Goes like this. Different things going on here that's important. Number one is to get the different pitches out of one drum. Obviously clave with the left hand over here, which is felt in 2 bars, marked in 2 bars. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Got the checkade over here on I guess it's half notes, so 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. This is a fast rhythm. Also, it's there's a lot of energy behind this rhythm. The bombo note is, it factors into this counter rhythm over here. Second note of clave, so it's the bombo is heart. It means heart. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's the second one. It's on the end of 2. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And I support that on the kick, which is of course what you should do if you're on a drum set playing this stuff. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Let's talk about this counter rhythm. What's going on with the clave? It sounds like there's 6 against 4. It's not, but that's another one of the sneaky little miracles of Afro-Cuban drumming. Is things happen that expand your conception of what's possible. Actually, that's what happened for me anyway. So you get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 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 and 3. When you speed this up, it sounds like it's a evenly spaced bunch of 6 over the 4. So the second bombo when it's at its rhythmic apex. But again, that's not 6. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 If it was 6, if we were in 6/8, say, I guess you could always superimpose triplets. What would they be? Half note triplets over the half note triplets or quarter note triplets. Half note triplets over the 2 bars of 4/4. Forget about that. Maybe if it's in 6/8, then I don't think comparsa would be in 6/8. I believe it's in 4. But just to show you what 6 would actually sound like, you would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to give you your 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are quarter notes in the 6/8. It's 2 bars long, so 3 times 2 is 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a subtle shift, the 6/8 against versus the 4/4, but it's there. All right. Oh, and for the hell of it, here's how David Garibaldi does his comparsa with the snare. on to it's a rhythmic, a rumba signifier. It comes from Quinto, I believe, the smallest conga, or the second smallest conga drum, which is why it factors into his part. I think. So there's that bombo note again with the kick on the floor. You're having a good day with whatever you're doing, and see you next time. So we start off with about 5 minutes of this, just a spasm. Trying to get them to single out too much, just getting the blood going to the ankles, and just not playing from the hip flexors, but just getting the ankles moving as fast as possible. Once the burn starts to leave the shins, then I'll start to single out just from the ankles. See how that's going? And I'll pull back the tempo a little bit. Power now, and I'm still in the sweet spot of the pedal with both feet. So a few minutes more of that, and then I'll bring in the hip flexors and more volume, and then start to slow it down. Bringing in a bit of hip flexors now. Shins are good and warmed up, the ankles too. Tempo a bit, bring in the hands. Down there. Click at 170. But go for 190. Let's see how 200 is feeling. Weird, 200 is sitting a little better than 190, but that's just how it goes double bass sometimes. 210. Hope you're having a good day, whatever you're doing. So if you're taking Cuban rhythms and like hand percussion rhythms and you're putting them on the drum set, then really you got to be careful, unless you're playing Latin jazz where this is okay, where you take the staccato, non-sustaining rhythms of Cuba, like bells, and like the sides of timbales rhythms like cascada, where they don't sustain. You know, if you're playing Latin jazz, then you put them on the bell, and that's cool, because that's the tradition that happened in New York. Otherwise, you know, those rhythms, they gotta stay on static sounding sources when you get sticks in your hand and put them on the kit. And then, you know, it's a whole other ball of wax when you get into taking bongo rhythms, conga rhythms, and start using tom-toms and you lose all those muffs, and you lose a lot of sounds when you get on the drum set with sticks. So it's a loss of translation. So the first thing really you got to do is you take your crash, you take your ride, talking about hand percussion today. Not using a lot of sticks. It's just a lot of stuff I've learned over the years. Start with bongos. So a little bit of Cuban percussion. The bongos are actually, I find them really hard to play. It's what makes them hard is not just the patterns. The phrasing is really difficult, but it's getting the sounds. You play from the tip of the finger, and you mute. I don't know if you can see that, but mute with the thumb. So you get a really high popping sound. It's more like up in there. And then there's muted tones where you bury your hand into the drum. And this is true of a lot of Cuban percussion, bata, congas. And there's the open tones, which is just the tips of the fingers, sometimes the sides of the fingers. So muffs. And then muted pop sounds. Open tones and mutes. So bongos, and then you got congas over here. Same kind of principle, except the open, the slap is actually what I was shown. What I was taught in Havana was posición. The position of your hands gives you the sound. I'm almost getting it in here. The only kind of drumming I can think that's more difficult than congas is tabla, where it just takes just as many years to get anywhere. There's a lot of sounds, but the first thing you do with a conga is you actually tilt it down and away from you like that, so that you can get a little bit of the open sound from the bass, so you can get the bass to come out of the bottom of the drum. Otherwise it's totally muted. So this just helps the drum to resonate a little bit. This is not like a djembe where it's a totally different kind of drum, and there's a lot of bass that factors into that sound. So that slap is, you come right up close to the edge and you play with a cupped hand right up in there, so you get the high harmonic and partials of the drum resonating. So, and then there's your open tone and your slap, open, muff again. So you got to try and get away from this perpendicular slap. It's closer to the edge, like I'm saying. A really hard drum to play because I remember seeing my doctor one time, and my pinky was numb, and he's got my arm, and we're trying to figure out like why my pinky is going numb. And I said, "Oh, I've been playing lots of congas," and he goes, "Oh, so it's trauma." He said, "It's trauma." Anyway, okay, congas, you got bell. Bell is a blast. Basically, it's already very bright sounding and obviously very metallic sounding. So you got to be careful that you're not overdoing it with with a bright sound. There's already a lot of brightness in there. So what they do generally in Cuba is, well, this is designed for a drum set, so you take this guy off, and they play with a bigger stick, like a round stick, like part of a clave, and then they'll hold the cymbal here, or sorry, the bell, just to help mute a little bit if they want. And you've got your higher pitch and your lower. Timbales is a different deal. There's a lot of clang sound, but that's a rounder, more pleasing tone than like a stick. See how much thinner and brighter that is? know, it's even more clangy right there. Maracas are really difficult because there's such there's a pre-stroke sound before the main accented hit. There's a little bit of pre-noise, so you have to try to work that out from your technique. So what I was showing is you actually throw pretty aggressively. There's a bit of a snap to that. And the other one, I was taught that you hold them up here and you're really like throwing, you know, like that. Another grip is loosen the hands. You hold at the back of the hand, which is the bottom two fingers, and use the webbing or connective tissue, whatever this is, in your thumb, between the thumb and the index. Takes practice, that one. I have a hose, and these are actually cool. They're not percussion, but you know, Guido is very difficult. This is a gourd. This is hard. This one, you actually have to move both hands at the same time, and you really got to get this. That sound. Unfortunately, the accent involves a change of direction from the down back to the up again on the downbeat. Now the guys who are really good at this, you'll see them moving the hands against each other, and it's all very fluid and beautiful. I believe the in merengue, the metallic version of this is Guida, but this is Guido. These are African shakers I got in Africa, actually, and there's bottle caps in here. And like a lot of shakers, there's that pre-hit again. So you have to really measure what the shaker can give you. I don't know if you can really hear that because it's a really subtle sound. But you have to just explore the nature of each instrument and get really familiar with it. So this one, if I go to just shake it, I've got a sound where I don't necessarily want it. You know, they have single shot shakers that eliminate that problem of the pre-hit. I don't know what you call that, but there's really much way around that, you know. You can always do that, or you hit your wrist. Again, that can eliminate some of the pre-sound that we're talking about. Or if you want to use that sound a little bit and use the natural work with the motion of how you naturally want to move, which is up and down, then you train yourself to get a sound in both directions. Claves are really, really, really great. They're I read that they were originally ship dowels, like pieces of doweling to keep ships together in shipbuilding. So you make a chamber, which is just a fancy French word for room. So you make a little chamber in your hand, a resonating chamber, and the larger clave rests in, not right on the tips of your fingers, but close enough, and you're loose here, you're not tight, and you make room for this thing to sit there. And it feels better to let the other one come off, this clave come off. But you really want to find where it's the most resonant. See, that doesn't sound so great, but right in the middle, it sounds good and resonant, and there's a sweet spot. Different kind of shakers. I actually made this from bamboo and it's designed to go on the kit, but any kind of shaker type instrument, and there's a lot of new ones in the market that I think are made by Meinl, and they're really, really creative and awesome. You just want to get familiar with what it can do. You know, these are Meinl ones. These are great on the kit to bring in, but you can also just use them in your hands on a mic. Whenever you're in a recording with this kind of stuff and you're using a shaker, you want to put the microphone, let's say this is the microphone, you don't want it to go to shake your downbeats into the mic, because if your downbeats are accented, usually by accident, then you get a stronger downbeat. You get a chick, 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 which is unfunky. So the mic picks up that. Chick, dong, chick, dong, chick, dong, chick, dong, chick, dong, chick. So what you want actually is you go off axis or parallel. Is it parallel? No. If it's perpendicular, no, that would be perfect. You just want to get on the side and get an even shakes happening. So you have to train your hand to get an even sound on the offbeats when you're coming back towards you, which can be quite difficult. And triplets as well in threes. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is another type of guida, or guido rather. Soft shakers. Oh, these are really cool. I saw a guy in New York, Carnegie Hall. He actually, because of that pre-shake again, if you want to just accent downbeats, say, and nothing, you know, no offbeats or upbeats, then you still have sound before the actual downbeats. So how did he get around that? He actually held them and hit his hand. Different shakers right here. With shakers, you can sometimes mute them. Squeeze on a little bit tighter to impede the resonating or the resonance. It's a different kind of sound when you mute it. And sometimes you can work that into the groove or whatever you're playing. It's a lot of fun to have more control over a shaker and just to bring it into your playing. Tambourine is actually very, very difficult. This one is built for the drum set with this clamp, so you don't want that rattling too much. But the tambourine, you really have to get the offbeats as loud as the downbeats. Again, it's the same old story, right? And then for an accent, it's just got to hit something. Obviously, a tambourine, there's a lot of different kinds of types of this and sizes, and it goes way back in history, all over the world, as an amazing instrument. It's an amazing combination of a drum, usually with the skin on it, and little bells, little zills, you know. Jingles again. These are dancing. These are South Asian bells. I don't know what these are called, but they're a more subtle kind of jingle. You can put these on a kit. Very nice. These are West African, and I'm not very good at these at all. But they're like an egg shaker, which fits really well into the hand. Very nice. What else do I have? Woodblock. You can. I saw one of the Nexus guys actually get real close to it and play like that, which I thought was really, really cool. I don't know why he did that. Maybe he needed to be very precise with the hit in the time. I don't know. We're talking about frame drums. A lot of different kinds of these. Ricks and Tars and Bendirs, and they're super old in all over Africa, the Middle East, you know, even in the United Kingdom, the Americas, and southern Italy has a great tradition of their own frame drums, tarantella stuff. I think really big drums with cymbals in them. Again, you know, like little guys like that. Okay, I don't have darbuka or what are they called? Tumbeks, the Middle Eastern type of drums, but some of the technique with those drums actually apply to this stuff too, where there's they snap like that. You can use your nails, which I love to do with the frame drum. There's the open tone. There's some muffs and mutes. There's a bass with the thumb. A lot of this stuff applies to different types of drums. Rolling. You can roll with one hand, which is the thumb and the other fingers. Like that roll would be the fourth and pinky and the thumb. That definitely takes practice, and you feel it in your forearm. It takes a while to develop that. You do it on a different part of a drum as well. Yeah, it doesn't want to give me that. There you go. The frame drum, and triangles are actually really cool because you can see one side will be, see that one will be dead, and so will that, so you have to hang on to it in the right place, and then you can mute. I think that's it. There's a lot of different variations of the same kind of stuff, you know. This would be Indian, I believe. Castanets are cool. That's it. Hey folks, talking about hard rock drumming today, heavy hitting. We want to do this for a long time. I've got a lot to talk about today in terms of feel, technique, setup, what's involved, what it feels like to actually play this stuff for real. So here we go. First thing is you want to be loose. You know, these are just the things that I've learned over the 20 years that I've been doing this, actually more than 20 years. You want to be loose, like Angelo Dundee says to Muhammad Ali. He was Muhammad Ali's trainer and George Foreman's. You don't want to be tight. You don't want to have feel constricted. You want to be loose when you're playing. Everything in this kind of music is exploding. The drums are being hit really hard, so everything is vibrating. You're not, you know, digging in and inhibiting the natural things that want to happen, like a head vibrating, a shell vibrating, both heads vibrating, cymbals being very free to, you know, to explode and to crash. Anyhow, so you do want to be loose. Be careful not to stretch. Like, you don't want to be stretching. You need to be loose all the time. Anyway, generally, right? So so what I do is I just shake shake the arms. Michael Beauclair taught me this. Thank you, Michael. You just want to relax the muscles, get the blood flowing, breathe. You know, you don't want to be going, ah. You especially don't want to stretch if you're not warmed up, if you don't have the blood going through the muscles, and if your heart's at a really low rate, you know. So you need heat to really get the muscles to stretch anyway. Otherwise, I'm told it's like trying to stretch a cold elastic band, which is not a good idea. So anyway, speaking about muscles, one muscle is for this music that's really gets used a lot is the thumb in here. So you can kind of check in on that and just see how tight it is, or that's what I do anyway. But generally, you should be able to loosen everything up, you know, before you're playing. If not, then stretch earlier, stretch a little bit before you play, just to help those muscles out, because you're gonna need them. Earplugs. If you don't know how to put in earplugs, then you're screwed. But if you're playing with big headphones, like up here, then when it gets time to actually get the stick up to the, you know, the bigger stick heights, then you can hit yourself in that headphone all the time, and that gets really annoying and distracting, and you don't want to be distracted when you're playing this music. So with the plug, in case you don't know, you roll it up, boom, this ear gets pulled up, and then what I do is I actually twist and spiral and put the plugs in that way. I put band-aids on and then electrical tape. You're gonna need tough hands for this. Don't use lotions and any kind of hand cream. You want tough hands. Calluses are your friends. The stick is generating a ton of friction with this kind of music, so you really want to protect your hands and just get them to where you need them, you know. So in other words, you don't want to be aware or distracted by any kind of pain in your hand that you could have avoided. So what I do is just take a band-aid and electrical tape, and I just tape up the areas that I know they're gonna need protecting. So for me, it's always the thumb, and the idea with this is it's on medium tight, like just snug. The band-aid is designed to stick to your skin. Electrical tape isn't. But if I just left the band-aids on, then the stick and the sweat and the heat would just shear it off. So then I take the electrical, and which is good and slippery, I put that medium snug, not too tight, not too loose, so that it's not gonna move at all. And if I'm putting, actually I do tape up the inside of my index in here as well. You could use sport tape as well. If I'm gonna, again, I do a band-aid and then this on top, then I stretch it out so that it's not tight and so that I'm not aware of the feeling of the tape too much. You know, a little bit of awareness is okay, but not distraction. I don't want to be distracted by how my hands feel, you know. I want to be playing the music. So, okay, so we do that, and I keep extra band-aids and stuff on hand, drum keys in case stuff gets loose in the middle of playing. Don't stretch. Yeah, I drink water. I drink water before I start playing. The last thing you want to be doing is you don't want to be thirsty, because when you're thirsty, your body is already dehydrated. So you want to drink. I don't know. I drink like maybe 500, like half a liter before playing. You don't want to have to go to the bathroom while you're playing, by the way. But yeah, so drink well before you play for sure. Good pain and bad pain. Okay, good pain is lactic acid going to the muscles. Bad pain is numbness, tingling. Circulation is really, really important with this level of drumming because it's so athletic. It's so fast. It's so aggressive. Your lungs are going to be pounding like crazy. Your heart is going at easily 160 beats a minute and staying at 160. You know, sometimes it gets ramped up like crazy, and your jugular is pounding like crazy, and you're just sweating like a freak, and you're breathing really, really hard, and it's awesome. So that's the good stuff that's supposed to happen. Bad stuff is cramping up, the oxygen isn't getting to the muscles, your muscles are being overworked, or you're tight, you're so tight that I guess you're inhibiting the blood flow. I don't know, but you really have to monitor the tension in your, especially from the elbows down, you know. We'll get into technique in a sec, but if you're too tight all the time, then it actually creates a smaller sound because you're inhibiting the stick from vibrating and giving you a full, happy reaction to everything that you're hitting. The cymbals, all that tension's going into a cymbal, so a cymbal is not as open as it could be. Same for a skin and everything. So yeah, good pain versus bad pain. It's important to know the difference for sure. Let's talk about setup. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but the hats are like at my shoulder almost. They're actually a little bit under the shoulder, and the reason for that is I just want the elbow to be naturally in front of me here. I don't know if you can see that, but I don't want to have to do any weird stuff to get at the kit. It should all just be at the end of the stick, you know. And the hats are the side of the hi-hat it's like right in my face. Not too close. I'm not crowding the kit. It's not too far away. It's certainly not low and away, which is the worst thing you can do, because then you should never see the inside of a drummer's elbow. You know what I mean? There's no reason, like when you're throwing a ball, that you would let go of the ball at the down here. You let go of it up here, right? So you want to be set up so that the stick is where you would let go of a ball. You know what I'm saying? So it's just right in there. It's the shoulder of the stick is where you want to hit stuff. You know, any cymbal gets hit in here. This is the weakest part of the stick. And you don't use the tip unless you need it for rolling. You know, there's no reason why you should hit hi-hat, you know, with the tip of the stick, unless you have no choice. So when your hats are way down here, then all you see is the top of the cymbal and the rim. This disappears. It's no longer accessible to you, which makes your rim shots basically impossible to get at. So what happens is it changes your grip, and you have to hit with the tip of the stick. So you get a much thinner sound, and it sounds weak. It sounds like crap. So also, you'll see, if you can see my left hand, that I'm getting this conflict happening here. Right? So it's harder to actually get volume out of the snare because the hats are so low. So the first thing you got to do is get those hats up real high so that you can easily engage both cymbals, and not just the top cymbal, you know, but you play in here, lift the hats up from the hip flexor, the muscle that, or a series of muscles that lifts up the whole leg, and you're good to go from there, okay? But really loose in the hand. It's gotta be a rim shot every time, folks. Sorry, but it can't be the tip of the stick in the middle of the drum, because then you're missing out on all of this available volume that's naturally inherent in how the drum is made. So you hit a rim shot, which is the middle of the stick basically hitting the rim, and the tip of the stick hitting the head at the same time. So here's 50%, here's the other 50, and together, you have to be able to do that at will, whenever you want. Both hands. Here's a quiet rim shot. Loud. What else? Talking about setup. So start with the throne. Even before you do set up your hi-hat, I've got a little bit of, my knees are going up a little bit. And that just helps me to feel, for my center of gravity to be low, to be low, it helps me to hit harder. You know, it just feels like the drums they're across my, I guess, stomach, you know, and the stomach area is really important for feeling comfortable, or for playing from the stomach really helps to feel, to give this music what it needs, which is just a lot of aggression and a lot of volume, you know, without having to compensate with your back, or without having to do any weird stuff with your hands, you know, in terms of the ergonomic relationship between you and the kit. So the rim of the drum is easily accessible to me here, and they're, you know, I can live with the bass drum leg coming up and me going to the rim. There being contact in here. Normally I wouldn't really, I'd avoid that, but because it's this kind of music, then I work with it. You know, it's really not that big a deal, but I would rather there be a little bit of touch between the bottom of the hand and the top of the leg if it enables me to feel like this drum is in the proper place for this music, you know. So if it's too high, like say at the belly button level, then it feels like it's up in my chin, and that messes up my shoulder blade, scapula in there. I don't want to be aware of that stuff. I just want to be able to hit well and to move properly, okay? Speaking of moving properly, so for that bass drum with hard rock, it's a one-dimensional sound. You know, it's really not a dynamically played drum. It's not like jazz where you have a lot of different techniques with the kick and you get a lot of different tones and you mute it and stuff like that. No, you hit it hard and you hit it from the hip up here, which is pretty close to your stomach anyway, but yeah, you hit it for real so that the whole drum is engaged and both heads are vibrating and the shell is vibrating and the drum it's happy and it's giving you all the volume that it can. Let the frickin' beater come off the head. Always let it come off so that you're not muting the drum, okay, and losing bass. You lose bass when you leave a beater into a skin, so just train your foot to let the beater come off, okay? Man, plus you dent the head, ultimately. What else? Okay, hands, elbows, from the forearm down, the shoulder down. Why do we hit so hard? Because the guitars are slamming loud. I'm already shouting because I have earplugs in, and this is what you want, right? This is a very physical approach to playing. Guitars are slamming loud, bass is slamming loud, singer is screaming as hard as they can, and the worst thing you can do is be the weakest link in terms of feel when those are the circumstances of the musical moment, when the feel is that aggressive, you know? So you don't want to be playing with the tip of the stick when the guitars are just slamming loud. You want to match the volume. You want to be too loud. You want to be able to be too loud. You want to be able to not be in the front of house mix because you're putting out so much volume from the kit. It's really a worthwhile ability to have, you know, and then you can choose to play quieter as an option versus you know, just being a consequence of your actual lack of technique and feel, right? Snare drum, if it's got a pretty new head on it and will give you lots of attack and volume, if you hit it as hard as you can, there's a point where it just can't give you any more volume. And it's the same with the toms. You know, it's giving me a little bit more when I hit it with everything I've got, but not much. So you really have to monitor how hard you're hitting, the ratio between how hard you're hitting and how much volume or more volume you're actually getting out. Because when you start to get tired, you need to know why you're getting tired. Are you just out of shape? Or are you not getting the volumes and the sounds that you actually need according to how hard you're hitting? So that's the stuff that I look for and I watch for when I'm playing in the moment, always. But a snare can give you 110, 115 decibels, you know, which will take your head off when you're hitting it hard. So will hi-hats, well, they won't give you that much, but it's right next to your head. It's a lot of volume. The kick won't give you too much. It's a low frequency and they're down closer to the ground, but there's a lot of volume as it should be coming from, especially the snare, which should be your loudest. You got to hit your kick with everything, like I'm saying, and then your your hat's got to be able to pump out a good volume too. Okay, so for using the arms, you can't really get away with too much with just the wrist. That's maximum rotation with the wrist. There's a lot of volume there, but it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel as natural as swinging your arms a little bit more. So as with fighting, as with mostly fighting, the elbows, the forearm comes up like this, like with boxing. Forearm comes up, and if you're really new to this, then what to aim for is just grab your earlobe to start, okay, to give you an idea of how your shoulder is going to feel and where the natural position of your arm wants to go. So you just grab your earlobe, and that's going to tell you how forward everything actually becomes. So you really start to play from here with the elbows front. Notice that I'm sitting upright, but I'm not stiff like a board. Just want to have a little bit of a bend in there to feel like you're just starting to teeter over the kit, and that actually helps you to hit hard again. I don't know why, but it does. This just does not feel natural to have a straight back like that. It feels like you have to focus and concentrate on keeping a straight back. Meanwhile, you don't want to be focused on too much. You want to be playing the music. Elbows come up front, and then look at the hand. So the hand's just naturally where it wants to go, right? You put a stick in there, and the stick it's right at your shoulder. I know that when I don't feel this, when I don't feel the stick on the back of my shoulder right here, before I go to hit cymbals or hit drums, if I don't feel that little touch, then I know I'm not really hitting hard for real, So that's another thing that you can start to get used to is the stick just touching here, In the Middle Ages, they would cut a guy in half, apparently, by using both arms going up and then use the stomach muscles. There's so much energy just waiting for you to use when you wind up like this, and that's really what this is. Speaking of, I want to talk about the conflict between the hands when you're playing on the hi-hat. How do you get the right hand out of the way of the left hand when you're going for that rim shot, and when you're playing up here with the left hand? Why do you play from here? Because you need maximum volume out of the drum. Same with the right hand, maximum volume out of the hats. So what you do, or what I do, is I aim for the upbeat being, I don't know, I guess this would be one, yeah, it would be an upbeat. So at the end of two, the end of one, one, and C, and, no, you know what? It's more like the of one. It's a 16th before beat 2 that I would be here, and a lot of drummers would actually be at the full, wind up. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. So that should really help you to put yourself in time. You have to uncross the hands like this. You want to really get away from the feeling of the dominant limb, like bearing down over the left and inhibiting the left arm, especially when you need volume from the snare real bad. Okay, so it starts in the wrists. You should just be able to uncross the sticks and point them like there's flashlights straight up at the ceiling. You should be able to do that. And then with the elbows rotating, I don't know if you can see, but there's a twist happening, and there's the up as well, and that gets the sticks out of each other's way. When you go to hit, I have a slight circle in my hand, and this just feels good. So it's this, I don't know what you would call it, but a slight ellipses or elliptical motion. It's a pretty narrow circle, and it just feels good. It feels good in the shoulder to play like this. There's a slight twist that's happening, and I just think of, if I'm gonna think of at all, I just try to come up, out, and then back in like that. So in, up and out, and then like that. This area next to the head, this is where the sticks should be. Sometimes your hands go up there. I'll never forget seeing Neil Peart when he, finally surrendered the traditional grip that he was doing, I guess around the Test for Echo time, and 5 years later, 6 years later, got back to, hitting the drums for real. I remember seeing the Rush in concert, and I was way at the back, and I could still, from hundreds of feet away, I could see his left hand next to his head, and it was such a relief to see that again, because he's maxing out. You can't hit any harder than that guy, for example. So that's a beautiful thing, and the drums, they give you everything they can when you're playing like that. That brings me to, what was I going to talk about? Technique. Oh yeah, okay. Hitting as hard as you can. Well, I find that if I hit at 100% and I keep it at 100%, sorry, I got cut out there for a sec, but just one more point about hitting as hard as you can. I actually learned that what works for me is to hit at 95%, to go at 95%, and to keep that sustained in terms of a level of commitment to the moment with hard rock. Because at 100%, then the wheels start to come off, and I start to actually become more inconsistent with where I'm able to hit the drums and cymbals and everything, because the world is just shaking like it's like being in a mosh pit where you just get flashes of the world, because you're just so bent on hitting as hard as you can. So that's actually a really important point, just to pull back a tiny bit, to have the limit, to know the limit, but when it feels like there's a loss of control that is entered into your playing, then that's going to equate to a loss of feel and of sound. So you really have to keep control of what you're doing all the time. It's a matter of pacing as well too. So otherwise your hands connect with stuff. It's harder to be consistent with where you're placing your hands. You start to get injured more if that's the case. And I don't know if I really talked about hitting knuckles, for example, on the rim of the drum, but when you're up here and you're not consistently moving in the same way every time, because you're just in a rage so much, you can get into real kind of problem areas, like breaking a knuckle or something, which I've never done, but I'm sure I've come close. It's just brutal to hit a drum with your hand, or the rim with your hand, because it's a mistake is what it is anyway. But yeah, it's all part of playing this way and everything, for sure. But there is a difference. All I wanted to add was between staying at 100% all the time, which actually tires you out faster, than staying at 95%, which just is really a different sort of maximum. Because if you're at 95, you're in control, then you can't actually give any more, because you lose control. So it's just not worth it, Okay, just wanted to interject that there. Okay, sorry I got cut off. But when you're breathing that hard, your lungs are going like crazy, and if you have a clammy wet shirt that's elasticized, it's inhibiting, it's tight, so your shirt is tight against your lungs, which want to go that way, right, out, and your shirt is in. Problem solved. When there's no shirt. Okay? It's not a looks thing. It just feels really good. It feels like, oh, what a relief, right? Other things I wanted to talk about: positioning, kick beater, rim shots, 6 shoulder in your head, good pain versus bad pain, hands are loose, hat snare, earplugs. Oh, shoes. Some people play bare feet. There's a lot of bones in the top of your feet. So when the beater comes back, this is your foot, this is the top of your foot, this is the beater, say. When this hits the drum and comes back and hits the top of your foot, it hurts like hell because it's bones there. So you have to be careful that, you know, to avoid that kind of thing for sure. You have to be able to lift your whole leg up, but keep the ball of your foot on the pedal so that you still know where that pedal is at all times, obviously. Sometimes when things get crazy, the back of the beater can come back and hit the inside of the ankle on your right foot, your inner left ankle on your right foot. That hurts like hell. But this is some of the stuff that happens. You know, I hit myself in the face a billion times. I hit that knuckle like we're talking about many times. With band-aids and tape or whatever technique you use to protect your hands. The reason you do that is so that you don't get blisters while you're playing, because that is the worst. What happens is you're playing, the blister forms, and then it breaks, and then the skin, a bunch of juice comes out, and then the skin gets pushed off to the side, and then all the sweat in your hand and the salt stings like crazy, and it's just raw exposed flesh. There's no blood necessarily, but it's distracting, you know. I've put sticks right in my mouth, you know. I've hit myself in the back of the ear, you know. Anyway, what do you expect with this kind of music, right? So yeah, this is something to get used to, is playing up in here. You have to want it, you have to believe in it for sure. To develop those rim shots, just start with the wrist. And then start to get the stick going up. You want to be loose in the hand, and you don't want to be hanging onto the stick like that. You want to be hanging onto the stick here, a little more medium tight, but from the back of the hand, the back two fingers. And these guys, they listen to the stick, you know, can't think of another way to describe it. But they're on the stick at all times. You want to start to engage the elbow joint until you're up in there, okay? And then eventually up there. When sticks break, you should have sticks on the left side, sticks on the right side. Speaking of drumming muscles, there's one in here, in there, so that's going to get developed if it isn't for you already. Forearm, you're going to use a lot of forearm in here, so this muscle, which you can feel when you close your hand, let me do that. That gets used like crazy, and then this thumb one as well. So that's the stuff that you really want to try and keep loose and keep an eye on, you know. What else? We talked about the stick hitting the cymbals, the side of the cymbal. You know, you want to hit here, in there, you know, and then you hit it well. Don't leave the stick in the cymbal. You want to hit it and go through it, and come back away from it on that circle we talked about, that shallow circle, so that the cymbal is just able to just explode, just erupt happily, which is what it's designed to do, you know. You don't want the tip coming in on the cymbal like that. It gives you a very thin and doinky and lame sound, and that's no good. So you have to hit it, shoulder to the edge, right through. Positioning. The cymbal is at the end of the throat, right? Not too far away, not too close. It should just be comfortable. The left has to get at that snare, no problem. It's got to be able to get at the hat, no problem. The toms are just right at the end of the stroke as well. The The floor should be at the same level as your snare, you know. The ride should be comfortable. You should never be thinking about it, because you should be too busy playing the music because you're so comfortable. You shouldn't be wondering about whether something's in the right position, you know. If you need the bell, you should be able to get at the bell. If you need the surface of the ride, then you should be able to get there. So you'll notice that this is a really, really shallow angle of, God, I don't know, 15, 20 degrees. And if I want the rim real bad, because I crash a ride all the time, one thing I do is I play rim shots. I play this part of the stick on the cymbal, and that gets me away from playing for the tip again, which I don't want. What you're hearing is this hitting the ride like that. And it's not tight, it's loose, and there's still rebound. When I need the bell, it's right up there. I want the edge, it's right there, so when I can get everything I need from this cymbal, no problem. I've got access to everything that it can give me, no problem. And it's not really the same with a crash. A crash, you don't really need the bell at all, right? You don't need the surface of it. It's just, it got one function. It's just needs to be wasted. And it's the same with another crash over here. There's a slight shallow angle with these guys, and they're just at the end of the stroke, you know. I can't recommend having another crash enough over on the right side. These are 18s. This is a pretty small size for me. I have a hard time playing a crash with this kind of music under 19 because it's over to it quickly. You know, you need a big sound. So I love to use two 19s. It's just awesome to have that. And I use both of the same cymbals on either side, which actually sound different anyway. But definitely a 14-inch snare, 14-inch hats for sure. No smaller than a 22. I'm in a studio with smaller sizes today, but for harder music, the preference for me is 24 kick, 13 rack, no smaller than a 12. 16 over here I have a hard time with. It's just not big enough, so I would go 24, 13, 18, you know. It's actually a lot of fun to have two big floors, 16 and 18 over here, and if you want to tell me that you're happy with a 14 and 16, then have a great time, you know. Or a 10-inch tom on a hard rock set is just, it doesn't work. I'm sorry. Okay, what else? I have the word breathe written on my toms. I breathe through the mouth. You need a lot of air. Try not to hold your breath when you're during fills or ever, because you need all of the oxygen that you can get. The position of your crash, it should be, you can't really see it from this angle, but you should be able to get at it, no problem. You should be able to hit a tom without hitting your crash, you know. So this guy is just a little bit over to the right from the crash. The crash access area there is just a little bit over from the snare rim where I would hit the snare. So you can see that where I hit the snare, but you probably can't see that, sorry, but it's just to the left of where I would hit the tom, not by much. And all of that is just to the left where I hit the crash. And all of that is slightly, you know, over a little bit more is the hat. So you get this, you can kind of see the angles here are really, it's all kind of close together, you know, but there's no fight, there's no conflict. I never hit a hi-hat on my way to hit a snare, you know. Which actually brings me to elbows, the whole question of elbows. And if your elbows are up, I mean, guys would play this way a lot in the 90s and 80s, and Taylor Hawkins will still play like this a lot, and he does this crazy thing where hits the snare like this and sits really low, and that's all awesome and everything. But if the elbows are up, then you better be aware of them being up, because it turns your hands over, number one, and it really isolates your shoulders in a weird way. It makes you aware of your shoulders, I find, you know. The question is, do they really need to be up? You know, why are they up? Does it feel good? Well, that's good, but you really should not be aware of your back, you know. You should be aware of your shoulders. Everything should just feel good. So it's okay for your elbow to go up as part of a stroke, but they shouldn't stay up when you're playing, you know, because it's not normal, you know. If you're playing a djembe in a park, you don't go like this. You do with congas a little bit. Your elbows come up a little bit, and I know in marching drumming the elbows go out, but the elbows don't stay out as you play. Just, you know, try for yourself and you'll see that it just doesn't feel right. So what else? When you hit a bell, no reason to hit the tip. You should hit the shoulder. Flams work really well when they're wide. Again, that's rim shots all the way. I've seen guys have really flat toms, and this area in here, it feels like a tendon stretch, like tendons are stretching when they're overextended. There's no reason why you should have to get into this kind of problem area, you know? I mean, I don't know why guys do this. I've done it myself for sure, but the stick wants to hit something real bad around there, you know? Like the palm of the hand, it's ready for contact about there. So is the stick, you know. This is just an extension of your arm, right? So if you're down here, then, you know, I guess it's okay, but you don't, there's still an angle here, right? Even though I'm flat at 90 degrees here, when there's a tom that's facing up down here like that, then the hand still has to go that way, which tightens this up when you started back here. So I've seen this tons and tons of times, and it's scary because you can do permanent damage for sure with this, you know. Also, it might force you to want to be thumbs up a little bit, and it just is weird, you know, to max out a part of your body's limited rotation. You know, it just does not want to rotate more than that. It's not designed to do that. So it's so easy just to twist and to relax and to hit the thing hard. You know, even better for you to have a drum up a little bit, you know, the toms up. There's a reason why most people have the same kind of setup, because they played so many billions of hours. It just works, you know. Okay, wide flams. That's it. Okay, thanks for listening. Holy crap, I really went off there, but I guess I really believe in this stuff. You know, I really, really do. Last point, your snare's got to be opposite the core, opposite your belly button, groin, you know, down in there, and your knee shouldn't have anything touching it on the right side or on the left side. You know, you really got to be careful that you're not going to lift up that leg and then come banging down on some metal part of the drum, you know, or a tom leg or something weird like that. So you really got to protect your joints with this, and that goes for the left side as well. You don't want your inside of your left knee to be hitting a snare throw off, you know, or anything. Your elbows should never hit a wall. You should never touch anything with your elbows back here. There should be nothing, no amps or anything, no contact around you. You know, this is really precious area behind you, up in here and down, so that you don't screw yourself up. All right, have fun, go slow, repeat, sweat, enjoy.